I'm telling you, the 2024 cycle is very quickly shaping up to be Trump versus the world. And each poll that comes out just makes me more and more depressed. For President Trump leads a field of current and potential Republican presidential candidates in South Carolina by 22 points over his next closest possible challenger, according to a new poll. A national public affairs poll, which was first reported by Politico, found that Trump holds a comfortable lead with support from 43% of the likely Republican primary voters in South Carolina who were surveyed, followed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis with 21%. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who also served as ambassador to the United Nations, came in a close third place with 19%, while South Carolina Senator Tim Scott came in fourth with 7%. The remaining individuals included in the poll received 2% or less. Trump and Haley have officially announced their bids to run for the White House in 2024. While Scott has set up an exploratory committee ahead of a possible run, DeSantis has not officially announced, but has been widely rumored to be a potential candidate. South Carolina's position as one of the first states to vote during the Republican primaries and caucuses could make winning the state's primary key in competing for the GOP nomination. Pollsters found Trump has more supporters solidly behind him than any other candidate, with 40% of respondents saying they would almost certainly consider voting for him. DeSantis, Haley, and Scott each had about or almost a fifth of respondents say they would almost certainly consider voting for them. But more than 40% of respondents each also said they would at least somewhat consider voting for DeSantis, Haley, and Scott, while 26% they would somewhat consider voting for Trump. The pollster also conducted correlations to determine which candidates would benefit the most from a candidate dropping out or a potential candidate not running. They found that Haley and Scott are the most uh, correlated, so one would benefit the most from the other not being in the race. They also found DeSantis has the most potential for growth in the poll because he has positive correlations with other high performing candidates. The poll was conducted among 538 likely South Carolina Republican primary voters from April 11th to 14th. The margin of error was 4.2 points. So the reason this poll depresses me is because one of the things that people who don't want Trump to get the nomination have said is that the field should be relatively small. And when you have a small field, that increases the likelihood that the other major competitor against him, whether that's DeSantis or Haley, will end up being able to actually overtake him. And sure enough, if you put DeSantis's 21% with Haley's 19%, and then with Scott's 7%, that's a solid anti-Trump vote of other people who, if they united behind one candidate, would stop him from winning in that particular state. But really, this poll is something that should be an embarrassment for both Haley and Scott. This is not only their home state, but it's a state that they've both represented in one form or another for at least half a decade each, and they're not even. It would be one thing if like Trump's at 44, Haley's at 41, Scott's at 20 something. They're not. They're nowhere close to him. 41 to 19 and 7. And this goes back to my thing about how I really believe that they deserve what they're getting, in spite of how much I would rather not see Trump as the nominee, because they talked to Scott, they talked to Haley, and to a lesser degree, they talked to DeSantis. But I'm going to focus on those two more than anything else. They talked to Scott and Haley, and Haley's response to like being asked, "Hey, so where do you disagree with Trump on?" "Oh, he's one of my friends, and I don't kick sideways." And Scott doesn't so far, anyways, and he's not even officially in the race to be fair. But so far, he hasn't made any case for why you should vote for him over the other person from South Carolina, or the former president, or the very, whether you like him or not, very popular Florida governor. He has completely failed to articulate what about him should make him more appealing slash electable than the other three. Because I said before, if Haley was smart and actually, trying, like, running to win, because people like to run from these comfort zones, and when you're running for any office, but most especially for president, you have to hit your opponents as hard as you can, metaphorically, of course. She would say, look, I like a lot of what Trump did, but he lost to Biden. If he had been able to win by large margins, maybe we could have kept going with this, oh, the election was stolen thing, and maybe some recounts could have yielded something, but he lost by several million votes. Do you really want the person who lost to I'm just going to say a geezer that should be in a nursing home to have a rematch with that person and possibly give them another 4 years? Why would you want to run the person who lost to the one that we want to get rid of? And then if she was trying to hit him even harder, she would start calling Trump Adlai Stevenson 2.0. And then, because I doubt people remember, but Stevenson was the Democratic nominee for president in 1952 and 56. And he lost both elections to Eisenhower. And that's actually, if Trump's able to win a nomination, this will be the first time there's been what they call a presidential rematch since then. And I think both parties learned a lesson of usually the person that's been nominated for president one time before, they never get the nomination again. It's like you had your chance, time to leave it behind. But if Haley was smart, she would invoke Stevenson. She would mention, hey, I get you guys like him, but he's the only one out of this field that's been up against Biden and lost. Give someone else a chance. It's too dangerous to try and go with the person you think you like the most who's damaged. The person you think you like the most, who definitely is the only one in this race to have lost to Biden, let's not have them go against each other again, because we don't want to have a repeat. Like I said, if she was smart, if DeSantis was smart, if Scott was smart, they would be saying that every single day. I don't care how much you like him, he lost to Biden. We don't want 4 more years of this. But they're scared. They're afraid. They're afraid of the voters that have. We talked before. This is not the Republican Party; it's the Trump Party. They're afraid of the voters, and they're also afraid of the donors. Not the donors as much, because a lot of donors are turning on Trump over, thanks to the January 6th stuff. But they just don't have it in them. Like, none of these people should be president off of this alone. Like, you can't even muster up the courage to attack your own opponent. Like, someone you're running against, you can't even say a negative thing about them that's factually true to help your own candidacy, and you want to be the most powerful person in the world.